Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would review this little video that I found to be very particularly interesting. And this is going to be the blood, sweat, and tears episode, I believe, on the upcoming fight between that of Teofimo Lopez and Jamaine Ortiz. And this is going to be my final fight breakdown and my final fight prediction of both of these fighters because they're going to be fighting, I believe, this Thursday on February 8th, which is a little bit of an odd date for for a fight to happen, but whatever. Maybe they're doing that because it's going to be the Super Bowl weekend, or I don't know. But of course, they could have made this fight on Saturday anyway, so I don't really know why they're making it on a Thursday. But either way, not really important. This is going to be a very interesting matchup because Teofimo Lopez, of course, he was recently able to capture, I believe, the WBC title, or maybe another title at that, of the junior welterweight division, or maybe it was the WBO title. I can't necessarily remember. But anyways, Devin Haney now has one of the belts. I believe actually he has the WBC title at that of the 140-pound weight division, and now Teofimo Lopez, he has one of the belts at the 140-pound weight division as well. And that's going to be the fight that, in my view, that everyone is going to call for eventually, and that everyone wants to see, as long as both of those guys end up keeping their titles and possibly gain another title. And Teofimo Lopez apparently has talked about possibly fighting the winner of Rolly Romero versus Isaac Pitbull Cruz, which of course is for a title. Because Rolly Romero right now has a title, so we'll see where that goes. But anyways, when it comes down to it, this is going to be a very intriguing fight, and this is going to be my fight prediction and my fight breakdown of who I think is going to win the fight, as well as seeing the process of Teofimo Lopez and Jamaine Ortiz in training, and them just kind of talking about each other and their opponent. And of course, just kind of getting an insight into both of these fighters' psyches. I just thought that that'd be very interesting. A lot of the times, of course, I end up reviewing that of Dante's Boxing Nation or Boxing Ego or something like that, because a lot of the times they have narratives that I kind of like to talk about. But you know what? We'll kind of do that another time. It's it's definitely good to take a break from those idiots. But it is what it is. But anyways, let's head into this. Let's see what they have to say.
Oh, it's my job. You remember, we gotta take out the trash. That's my other job, because they pay better. Yeah, you done doing good. It's funny, right? I know. We're gonna have some fun. Check this out. Real diamonds.
No, I know. My feet, I was just saying my knees.
Look how shiny it is. Check this out. I just opened this. Look at that. These are all the trophies they've made thus far. Now I want to see boxing there. Nice. That's the goal. So, Tiffany and Co. We'll see where you guys want to go. I'll leave that here for motivation.
Meet Tremendous. Sending incentives can actually be really simple.
Break the chain, break the chain, break the chains. I've been trying to find a way to break the chains. It be strange, it be strange, it be strange. I've been trying to find a way to make a change.
In boxing, the name Teofimo Lopez has become synonymous with relentless determination, highlight reel performances, and a larger-than-life personality.
I'm the greatest boxer they've seen since Muhammad Ali and Tyson. I don't care what they say. Ain't nobody doing it like this.
Well, I can guarantee you, Mr. Teofimo Lopez, that you're definitely not the greatest ever since Muhammad Ali. But I give Teofimo Lopez a lot of credit because he appears to be taking a lot of big fights. Now, of course, there's some fights that maybe you can say slipped through the cracks, or that maybe he should have taken. Of course, I would love to see the Devin Haney fight, but we'll see where that kind of goes. But he did fight Vasily Lomachenko when Lomachenko was the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. He fought Richard Comey. He fought George Kambosos. He fought, what's his name, Josh Taylor. He fought Sandor Martin, which was a fight that he probably could have not took, but I give him respect overall for taking that fight because Sandor Martin, of course, for those of you that don't remember, he was known for being the last fight in Mikey Garcia's career and completely outboxing Mikey Garcia, or at least overall outboxing him to the point where he clearly won that fight. And, you know, Sandor Martin, I wouldn't necessarily claim him to be an A-grade fighter, but he's a very, very tough B-grade level fighter. And I kind of, you know, would probably say the same thing about Jamaine Ortiz, maybe for the weight division, if you wanted to say that he's an A- level fighter. I mean, that's up to you, but I'm not really quite sure if I would claim him as an A-grade level fighter, but he's a very tough competitor, no doubt about it. And it's going to be very interesting to see how Teofimo Lopez deals with the skill set, with the speed and the movement of Jamaine Ortiz. And kind of like in the George Kambosos fight, Teofimo's going to be fighting a fighter that at times fights very similarly to him. Loves to stick his jab out there, loves to use his right hand when it comes down to it, and, you know, throw certain punches on the inside. Teofimo is going to have to be very much prepared. And, you know, if I had to make a prediction, I would predict Teofimo Lopez to win the fight. Possibly by stoppage, but I'm going to say more than likely by that of unanimous decision. I'll go that. But Teofimo Lopez is going to have to be very careful. I think that he's much more focused on what he was during the George Kambosos fight. I think that his mind was all over the place, unfortunately, because of his wife problems and, you know, them possibly going through divorce or all that other shit. I think that he was in a very, very low spot. And isn't it very interesting that none of these channels, with that of the LDBC and new media, you know, when it came to Jamel Charlo fighting Canelo Alvarez, you know, they made this excuse about how Jamel was, you know, out overall for a year. Teofimo Lopez was out, I believe, also for over a year right before he fought George Kambosos, and none of these guys make excuses for it. You know, so once again, the LDBC and new media, they're also just as, just overall as pro-racial, or have just as many agendas within their back pocket as that of old media. It is what it is. And don't get me wrong, to me, if a fighter is off for a year, to me, that's just not enough of an excuse. You might be a little bit rusty, but at the end of the day, it's your job to be fully prepared. And, you know, I have certain people tell me that they thought that Teofimo won that fight. In my view, he didn't win that fight. And I thought that it was relatively clear that he didn't win that fight, because the rounds that he was losing in that fight, he just got completely pieced up. And, I mean, Teofimo, that was the poorest defensively that I have ever seen Teofimo Lopez look. He looked very, very bad in that fight. And some people, you know, like I had this one dude, I believe, in my comment section say, oh, well, you got to beat the champion and all that other stuff. I never really agreed with that. And oftentimes when it comes to whoever gets the decision, oftentimes it's not overall about beating the champion. It's about beating the A side. It's really about beating whoever's more popular, or beating overall whoever has more future potential for the world of boxing to make more money. You know, that's why Tyson Fury did not get the decision in that first Deontay Wilder fight. That's why Gennady did not get the decision over Canelo in that first fight, you know, and et cetera, et cetera.
The self-proclaimed greatest showman has been at the top, not once, but twice, in 2 different weight classes, with nothing left to prove.
And once again, Teofimo Lopez right now is on my top 10 pound-for-pound list. I had him, you know, above Shakur Stevenson. And I also have him above Gervonta Tank Davis, because Gervonta Tank Davis is not on my top 10 pound-per-pound list. And the reason why that is because even though he's a great fighter, and I think that he's a great talent, he just doesn't have the resume of some of these other guys. And, you know, I had a person in my comment section ask me, you know, like, how can you have Teofimo Lopez over Gervonta Tank Davis, blah, blah, blah. And they said, don't you think that Gervonta might potentially beat those guys? He might potentially beat those guys all the living long damn day. But at the end of the day, there's been so many times in a sport where I've taken or I've, you know, seen so many people rank someone off of their potential and not off of their actual results. I've seen it with Aaron Rodgers. I've seen it with Anthony Davis. I've seen it overall with a bunch of other athletes as well. You can't put someone overall in that high of a position just because of their potential. Now, if they have great talent and potential, that's great. Oh, that's well and good. But you can't rank someone overall the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter or above another fighter when they have better results and a better resume and more accomplishments. It just is what it is. And Teo pretty much beats Gervonta Tank Davis in every single one of those categories. Now, in terms of talent, in terms of all-around boxing skills, both of their best, you could debate that Gervonta Tank Davis is over Teofimo if you wanted to. But in terms of a resume, it's really not even that close. Gervonta almost has 30-something fights, and he's 30 years old. Teofimo just turned 26, I believe, this year, or last year. And on top of that, he has 20 exact fights. This is about to be his 21st fight. And he already has 2 wins over, confirmed 2 top 10 pound for pound fighters. So at the end of the day, it's really not that close, at least in terms of the resume.
Teofimo was ready to walk away, but that retirement was short-lived.
And once again, bringing up Aaron Rodgers and bringing up a lot of these guys, the reason why I bring up Aaron Rodgers especially is because I've made so many videos about Aaron Rodgers, because it was so annoying to me to always hear the narrative about how Aaron Rodgers was greater than Tom Brady and greater than this guy and greater than that guy, and this dude never even made a second Super Bowl appearance. And there was always excuses for why he could never get there and all this other stuff. And eventually it was really just revealed that Aaron Rodgers really is just not as good in the big moments as what people thought that he was. And people can tell you all this bullshit about how the lack of talent that he had, all that is a bunch of horse shit. Aaron Rodgers, that one year that he was in the NFC Championship with the Seahawks, he could have won it. They blew it. Against the 49ers, they could have won multiple times. They blew it. Against that of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they blew it. And there was another year overall, I believe, where they blew it. So all that is a bunch of horse shit.
And less than a year later, he was back to take over once again.
Yeah. Do I rewind it? Do I grind it? Or just...
But standing in the way of the takeover is the technician. With 17 wins over his career, Jamaine Ortiz is now looking to make a statement.
He's focused on other things while I'm here focused on him. Let him do that. Just don't make it an excuse when I knock him out.
The two opponents.
Well, we'll see if you knock out Teofimo Lopez, Jamaine Ortiz. There's no offense against you, but you don't come across to me as a guy that has a great amount of power. Now, apparently, Jamaine Ortiz, from what I've been hearing from the rumors and seeing the pictures, he's in better shape overall for this fight. Could that maybe be because he's working extra hard? Could it maybe be because he has a little something extra in his system? Who knows? I don't know. I've already been on record as stating that I think that a lot of these fighters are on steroids anyway, so to me it's not really that big of a deal. But at the end of the day, I mean, you just never know, But, who knows? Maybe he's involved with the snack program. And I've already stated that anyone who's involved with the snack program, in my view, and you notice that there's a lot of top-ranked fighters, especially with that, Devin Haney, Terrence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson, but there's other fighters there as well, like Demetrius Andrade, Caleb Plant, and some other guys there as well. Probably some other guys that I'm not even thinking of at the moment. But, I don't know. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. But Jamaine Ortiz is not known as a great power puncher. I would probably even say that George Kambosos debatably has more power. But Teofimo is going to have to watch out because Teofimo, in my view, what he is, in my view, is that he is a great boxer, but he's almost like a mix between Danny Garcia and Floyd Mayweather Jr., where, he is very intelligent at times with his fighting style, but there's sometimes, just like with Danny Garcia, that he gets a little bit too much in love with his counterpunching ability and sometimes hitting people with big shots. And it's great if you, are a great counterpuncher, which Teofimo Lopez is. But at the end of the day, sometimes you have to be first. You have to throw your jab consistently. You have to throw body shots. You have to be first, and you have to, sometimes not just counter all the time, but sometimes you also have to be first with your offense and be a little bit more mixed up with it and multi-dimensional. And Teofimo Lopez, in my view, is not a one-dimensional fighter, but sometimes his offense gets a little bit too repetitive, and sometimes he waits for his opponent to be first to see, overall what he can do in terms of the counter, and that's not always how you win fights. He's going to have to be first against Jamaine Ortiz at times. And in my view, the best plan for Teofimo Lopez would be to break Jamaine Ortiz down. Because if this stands too much in the middle of the ring, just like that of the George Kambosos fight, Teo can win, sure. But Teo does not have the hand speed of a Jamaine Ortiz. He's going to have to watch out here. And Teofimo Lopez, he, even though he's not the worst defensive fighter that I've ever seen, he's certainly not a Floyd Mayweather or a Canelo Alvarez or something like that, where I would say that he has pristine defense. He's going to have to really watch out, especially keep that goddamn left hand up. He loves to do this shoulder roll shit, but, a lot of the times they don't do it the same way that Floyd Mayweather Jr. did. And even with Floyd Mayweather Jr., Floyd was still very vulnerable at times to jabs and overhand rights, so just be careful.
Are no strangers, having faced off in the 2015 Golden Gloves, where Teofimo came away with the win. Since then, the two have been on differing paths in their careers, until now, where the two will meet again. This time, a chance for Ortiz to secure his first world title against a familiar foe. A two-division champion who is looking for a welcome back party, and so much more.
Now it's time that I take it over, for once and for all. It's my world.
Let me tell you what also about this about Teofimo Lopez, at least just in my view. Had he not lost against George Kambosos, and had he knocked him out within 7-8 rounds, and then went up, or at least beat him, and then went up to 140 and beat Josh Taylor in the same fashion that he did, or at least won against him, Teofimo Lopez would have a very great argument right now as being the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Now, of course, the LDBC and new media, they would very much rebel against that, and they'd find some bullshit reason to not put him there. But Teofimo Lopez, that loss to George Kambosos really lost him a lot of esteem. So if he's ever going to be possibly talked about as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, and I don't think he ever was, but if he was still undefeated right now, he would probably be talked about as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, or at least in certain conversations. Certainly top 5, in my view, at least overall debatably there. But that George Kambosos loss really lost him a lot of esteem in terms of where his ranking is going to be. I'm not really sure exactly what he's going to have to do in order to possibly become the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. Probably defeat that of not Regis Prograis, but Devin Haney. And I'm not quite sure 100% if he can do that. Devin Haney has a very tricky style, and there's certain things that Teofimo Lopez does better than Devin Haney for sure. But there's also certain things that Devin Haney does better than Teofimo Lopez. And he's also going to be faster with his feet and his hands. He's going to be lengthier. And one thing that I'll give Devin Haney is that even with some of his deficiencies, at times I think that he gets hit a little bit too much. And I think that, he could be a little bit more defensively responsible. But at the end of the day, Devin Haney knows how to keep his range, and he knows overall his physical advantages. So the question would be, if Teofimo ever fought Devin Haney, would he be able to get over those advantages and fight smart enough to know overall that he's going to have to be more defensively responsible and break Devin Haney down incrementally and find some counters within that of the mid-range to really get Devin Haney, shaken, and stirred overall in that fight.
Everybody else is living in it. Here we go.
This is Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Teofimo versus Ortiz. Boxing is not solely built on pure physical skill. The sport is just as taxing mentally. The weeks, months, and years of constant pressure to achieve can leave a boxer questioning their ability inside the ring.
Mind the muscle. Make these count. 1, 2. Get a good squeeze.
Well, the big part of the reason why Teofimo Lopez also started doubting his skill set is because when a fighter loses, especially when they're undefeated, and especially after you get a big win over Lomachenko, you think you're on top of the world. And he basically kind of thought that he was invincible. And, he paid the price against George Kambosos. And once again, that's why this fight's also going to be interesting. Because, one may debate that Jamaine Ortiz is more dangerous for Teo than what Kambosos was. I'm going to say that George Kambosos was, just in my personal view. But at the end of the day, this is kind of another guy who somewhat mimics that of Teofimo Lopez's style, just to a certain degree. Not as much in my view as what George Kambosos did, but still to a certain degree. So this is going to be very interesting to see how Teofimo Lopez handles this. Because the last time, of course, something like this happened, he ended up losing. So it's going to be interesting.
But for someone that lives, breathes, and would die for the sport they love, there is no other option.
But once again, the reason why his mind was really all over the place once again was, I believe, because of that incident with that of his baby mama. Which, of course, is a very big problem for a lot of these athletes, especially a lot of these fighters. We've seen it with the Charlo brothers, I believe. And we've seen it overall with some of the other fighters as well.
Than to move forward.
Exhale.
Aim at death, for that is where life begins. I'm aiming at death and I'm smiling. I know death is smiling back at me, and I'm looking at death and I'm smiling back, because that's all a man can ever do. I'll die in the ring if that comes to it. But I have. I died when I faced George Kambosos.
Oh, please, let's stop. And I'm not sure overall what exactly he meant by that, but we all know that Teofimo also has made these excuses about, his esophagus apparently, being destroyed and that he almost damn near died against George Kambosos. All that is a bunch of shit, or a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry, Tio. I'm not, I'm not going for that. It is what it is. And I like Teofimo Lopez, but he's being known or kind of exposed as a major excuse maker.
And I'm still here, right? So I know what it...
But perhaps he just meant overall that it was something that he had to go through and a super huge negative experience or traumatic experience, but that you move on. If he meant to like that, then that's great for him.
Takes to win, and I also know what happens when I lose. It teaches you experiences. It teaches you trials and lessons. That's really what it is. And I had to go through that.
I agree 100%.
Teofimo Lopez coming off the shocking upset loss to Kambosos.
As the power carried for Teofimo Lopez from 135 to 140.
Squeeze. Make these count. 1, 2.
And there is the knockdown score.
Make the last two count. Come on, you got it.
Headshot after headshot. Short right hand. A beat down. Yeah.
Worldwide. The world and everything in it.
Teofimo!
Let me also state this really quickly, because there was talks about Ryan Garcia possibly facing Devin Haney or Teofimo Lopez next. I would probably give Ryan Garcia more of a chance over Devin Haney, just because Devin Haney isn't really known for super great power. I don't really see Ryan Garcia beating any elite fighter of his own same size. I don't see him beating Devin Haney. I don't see him beating Teofimo Lopez. I don't see him beating Josh Taylor. I don't see him beating any of those guys. It just is what it is.
Putting in work, man. Let's go.
Well, we gotta train every day. That's all it is. Everybody wants this spot, but they don't know what it takes to get there. Everybody want to be famous. We doing this for a legacy.
You want to attack that. There you go.
When I fought Sandor Martin, I actually broke my hand 3 weeks prior to facing him. Getting so close to camp and so close to a fight, you're gonna take the fight.
Did you really break your hand, Teofimo Lopez, or is this just another bullshit excuse? Teofimo Lopez reminds me of so many of my New Yorker friends that whenever in competition they say the same shit. They make, a lot of excuses when they lose, but then overall when you end up beating them, then they say not to make excuses. Tio, I believe, is from Brooklyn. Anyways, point is this, and it's just not people from there. Boxers in general are just, a lot of the times they can be excuse makers because they don't like it when they don't have an impressive performance and they're very prideful. And, whether they like to admit it or not, a lot of them do care about what other people think about them because that's their legacy, that's their livelihood, that's their pride on the line. I get it. But at the end of the day, did you really break your hand, Teofimo Lopez, or was Sandor Martin just a style that was very difficult? Sandor Martin, he's a very difficult boxer to fight. He's a guy that, is pretty much on the back foot the whole time. But at the end of the day, Sandor Martin, he's a difficult guy to fight. He's very quick. I think that he even knocked down Teofimo Lopez in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. And at the end of the day, he's just very difficult. He knows how to box. Once again, I don't think that he's an elite A-grade fighter, but for a B-grade fighter, you probably couldn't face a tougher B-grade level fighter.
I don't see Lopez in a rhythm. Fights up for grabs right now.
There is a surging right hand by Lopez. Late rally here by Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah. Squeeze. Yep. Come on.
Just bite down and get after it here.
Mean shot from Teofimo Lopez.
For your winner by split decision, the takeover, Teofimo Lopez.
Bro, do I still have it?
You do, man.
Do I still got it? I'm my worst critic. We know how to push ourselves to our limit.
Last one. Come on. Go up slow.
I think it's time that people see who I really am and how I am. Woo. So yeah, do I still got it? I knew that when I came into this fight with Josh Taylor, I didn't have a full recovery on my left hand. I knew this was my only opportunity. I just said, forget it. I'll fight through the pain and then we'll make this work.
Right. I would need doctor's evidence on that Teofimo Lopez. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it.
Me versus me every day.
Because the problems in that fight against Sandor Martin were not necessarily because Teofimo Lopez overall just, clearly wasn't throwing. It was that he was having a difficult time against Sandor Martin because he had certain counters. And on top of that, he was just very quick with his feet and very maneuverable. Mikey Garcia had a lot of problems with him as well. So anyone, overall, especially who hasn't fought that type of style before, they're going to have problems with him. It just is what it is. So I don't blame Teo for having problems with him, but am I believing this a knuckle excuse? No.
Every day.
Unless someone overall can prove to me that there was an actual report or there was an actual x-ray or something that was going to be shown, I'm sorry, I'm just not believing it.
Here we go for the world title. Taylor and Lopez. There's a left uppercut that comes in from Teofimo. Good shot with the right hand in between punches from Teofimo.
Got her, Taylor.
Come on, champ. Let's do this. Fast up. We got this, champ. Come on, man.
Oh, and the headshot combination sends Taylor back against the ropes.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, that lunging shot. Oh, he sets him off balance. Two-punch combination.
And here comes Lopez.
Right hand comes in from Teofimo.
Yeah, baby. The takeover.
Josh Taylor, in my view, in that fight, I don't think that he quite looked up to par as what he usually did. But at the end of the day, and he was off for probably about 1.5 years. But at the end of the day, Josh Taylor also just, I think overall that there were certain lacks in skill, at least in certain times overall, that were shown with him. He did not really have a great game plan later on down the line. And I think he expected Teofimo to be easier than what he was. And Josh Taylor, he had certain faults in that fight that were shown. Now, who knows, maybe a little bit later on he might be able to beat Teo in a rematch or be able to recapture it, but I don't know. Josh Taylor, also, when it comes down to it, he had a very bad performance, I believe, over that of Jack Catterall as well in the fight before. Also noticed that a lot of these guys from the LDBC and new media, they haven't actually said anything about Teofimo Lopez fighting Josh Taylor after the worst performance in his career and all sorts of stuff. That's only an excuse that is used with Canelo Alvarez because they know that they need to tear down Canelo Alvarez. Now, if Teofimo Lopez, if he was debated as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, then they'd be more on his ass about that. But the reason also why they're not going to trash Teofimo Lopez too badly for beating Jamaine Ortiz or someone over like that of a, someone else like that of a Sandor Martin or a, what was his name, Josh Taylor, is because they have a little bit of stock in Teofimo Lopez right now, because if they can propel him as a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, which in my view right now he is, if Devin Haney is able to beat him, then they can say that Devin Haney is a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter, which you very well could debate.
Back! Look at this finish from Teofimo!
Therapy, for me, came at a time that was really pivotal. Becoming a new father, I needed more support.
Boxing, it can be taken many ways. Sometimes I look at it as a gladiator sport, and sometimes I see myself in the Coliseum with thousands of people watching, and I'm just going life or death. I see boxing as a way that saved me from the streets. It's brought in a lot of good people in my life. It's became my safe haven.
Jab right. Jab, pull back. Right.
No matter what square circle it is, this is my home inside the ring.
From Worcester, Massachusetts, Jamaine, the Technician Ortiz!
As Ortiz's love of boxing translated into win after win, his team felt there was something missing.
As a professional, I never had a nickname when I started off. And everybody was like, oh, you need a nickname, you need a nickname. The Technician came up. I searched up the definition. It was a person very skilled or an expert in their craft.
Right hand comes in from Ortiz.
And that's what I felt like I was. Not only inside the ring of boxing, but also in my personal life. I'm very technical in the way I like to organize my life, the way I like to handle things. So I just felt like it suited me.
Left hand.
Let me also state this about Jamaine Ortiz really quickly. And I like his confidence. I like the way that, he says that he's very technical. I think that it's great for people to be technical in general. But certain fighters, when they think about a technical fighter, they just think about someone being on the back foot the whole entire time. Now, Jamaine Ortiz, of course, he still can fight on the inside, and he can be a little bit of a pressure fighter when he needs to. But sometimes Jamaine Ortiz, in my view, he's going to have to attack a little bit more, even in some of those rough spots. Because I remember in those moments against Vasily Lomachenko, where Lomachenko really started to turn up the volume and really started to turn up overall the punches, that Jamaine Ortiz kind of retreated a little bit. Now, that could have just been because of, maybe stamina issues, or maybe overall because Lomachenko's power and his experience. And to be fair, Lomachenko, even at this age, and even though he's a natural 130-pounder, pretty much, Lomachenko is still a tough fight for anybody. I mean, he still gave Teofimo a good probably 5 to 4 rounds, overall in that fight. He gave Devin Haney a hell of a time. And both of those fighters are probably natural 140-pounders. So at the end of the day, I'll give him a little bit of a break over Lomachenko, but Jamaine, he's gonna have to be a little bit careful because he has some faults as well. He's also not the most defensively responsible. A lot of the times he can be caught with his hands down, and against Teofimo Lopez, you can't really make that type of mistake because Teo can really knock you down or knock your lights out with one good solid punch. He has extraordinary power, so it's gonna be very interesting. But Jamaine Ortiz has to be very careful, and when he's moving back, sometimes he also has a little bit of a problem moving backwards in a straight line. He needs to move a little bit more laterally, a little bit more in a circle, at least to escape the range and occupy the vacated space. Because Teofimo, if he really decides to break Jamaine Ortiz down, he's going to hurt him.
The technician, it was perfect. He switches righty, lefty.
Now turns southpaw, and he hits the...
I'll actually give him the amount of credit overall there. I believe that I've seen at least parts of the Jamel Herring fight. He performed very well in the southpaw stance. That's an example of an actual switch hitter. Like, a lot of people call Terrence Bud Crawford a switch hitter, and Crawford's a switch hitter to a degree, but in the right hand stance, you can tell that he's a lot more limited than what he is in the southpaw stance. Crawford is a guy that really eventually probably trained in the southpaw stance, and then he eventually just kept doing it, and eventually became more comfortable with it, and then eventually he just started using that. So Crawford is really more of a natural southpaw than what he is a major switch hitter. Jamaine Ortiz, he's actually a very good switch hitter.
Gas pedal with Herring up against the ropes.
And all the technique he's been taught, he would practice them, he'd do them, and make them come to life. And
another question also that I'm going to have about Jamaine Ortiz, and I think that he's a relatively smart fighter, but he is going to have to be first against Teofimo Lopez. Get outside the range. Don't stay inside for too long, because that's what Teofimo is going to be looking for. Teofimo Lopez is going to be looking for you to stay inside the range a little bit too long and waiting for overall that counter shot. So watch that. So Jamaine is going to have to use that good one to get in and outside. Move laterally. Don't just back up in a straight line, and keep your hands up.
Moments when you need him to go hard and push, he would do it. And that's what it takes to be a champion.
Can Jamaine Ortiz finish strongly here?
I'm putting my life on the line, and I'm not going to have it go to waste. And I'm going to make it worth it.
Jamaine, the technician, Ortiz!
I have to shovel it a lot.
Why do I shovel a lot? To make sure that I win. Oh man, being a father brings more enjoyment, more purpose to life. Also, more responsibility.
Yes.
That one, how much I owe you?
3 million.
But you doubled the rent, right? So what's 3 doubled?
6 million.
6 million. Here's your 6 million. They're sponges, so everything you do, they take, they watch, and they're soaking it all in. So it just made me be more careful on how I behave, on how I act, and just really changed my character, making sure that everything that she soaks up is gonna be good. You ready to finish the game, Amira? Because this was about to happen. 13 million.
Okay.
I need 13 million. You want them to be the best of the best and teach them right from wrong and to raise good human beings. And the fact that you have that accountability and that's your responsibility as a father, I think it's a privilege. Guess what? Game over. I win. I won.
Jamaine Ortiz's life can be defined by one word: discipline. Whether that's to his family, his craft, or to his goals. Since turning pro in 2016, Ortiz has been focused on his ultimate goal, a world title. After proving himself time and time again, he earned a matchup with the former 3-division world title holder, Vasily Lomachenko. An opponent Teofimo Lopez had defeated in the past. It was a chance to see Ortiz's discipline at work against the former champion.
Discipline is...
Well, let me also tell you this, and, you know, Jamaine Ortiz is about to say that discipline is everything, and discipline definitely is a great quality to have. It's required, not even if you're just an athlete, but really if you just want to be successful, period. You know, you have to have discipline. You have to be consistent, and you have to make sure that you don't get involved in stupid shit or shit that's eventually going to tear you down, you know, or weaken you, whatever you want to call it, drugs or or whatever else it is. But at the end of the day, you can have all the discipline in the world. If you don't have the fight IQ, if you don't have the boxing skills and the fight ability, it's not going to matter. There's a bunch of guys out there that have a great amount of discipline. Gabriel Rosado is a guy that used to be in the gym all the time, and you know he used to be very much disciplined. But at the end of the day, he can never win the big fights in his career. Now, Jamaine Ortiz, in my view, is probably better than what Gabriel Rosado was. But you know the thing is about Jamaine Ortiz is that he's gonna have to be more defensively responsible in this fight. He's going to have to get in and outside of the range, and he's going to have to show Teofimo Lopez also that he can hurt him. Is any of that going to be here in this fight? We'll see.
Everything.
Let's go.
Motivation can only get you so far.
Ortiz being much the aggressor here.
He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do.
Motivation comes and goes. Sometimes people need a motivation boost, but discipline is about doing things consistently with or without motivation.
I agree with that, but you also need the boxing IQ overall once again to beat that of Teofimo Lopez, and I'm not quite sure if your boxing IQ is as high as that of Teofimo's. And Teofimo has some faults a little bit here and there as well. I think that he could be more defensively responsible, and I think that at times Teo sometimes falls in love a little bit too much with the big shots, or at least overall with that of counter-punching. He needs to be first a little bit more, just like he was in the Vasily Lomachenko fight. But at the end of the day, I think that Teofimo is probably the slightly smarter boxer than that of Jamaine Ortiz, and I definitely think that he's the better athlete.
Good work right there from Ortiz.
I'm my biggest critic. I expect the best out of myself.
He clipped him with the left hand. He clipped him with the right hand up top.
I just want to push myself to my full capacity. I want to see the full potential out of myself.
How Ortiz manages those moments will determine how this fight turns out.
I don't expect nobody else to pull it out of me. I expect to pull it out of myself.
Look at Ortiz.
That's what you have to do. And not really overall just in that, but in life in general. And I know that this is mainly a boxing channel. I'm not trying to be, you know, overall this deep philosopher or anything like that, or, you know, trying to seem phony. But at the end of the day, you kind of realize that, you know, when you get older, a lot of people overall, they expect, you know, people to kind of come in their life and kind of just make things a lot better. And at the end of the day, what you end up eventually realizing is that if you don't take the steps yourself, even if you are in a bad place, that eventually nothing's going to change. A lot of people really don't understand that, and unfortunately sometimes it comes a little bit too late. But, you know, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, you know, Jamaine Ortiz, I think that he has a very great mindset. I think that Teo at times also has a great mindset, even though I think that he can make some excuses. But I like Jamaine Ortiz's mindset. I think that, you know, a lot of the philosophies that he has. I think that they're, at least in my view, correct. I think that they're needed overall for a top level boxer. But his boxing IQ is going to have to show through in this fight.
Jamaine Ortiz needs to have no regrets right now. Needs to give everything he can. It's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Your winner by unanimous decision, Vasily Lomachenko.
Should have knocked his ass out. Don't leave it to the judges. Just knock their ass out.
Well, you should have been a lot better in the second half of that fight, Jamaine Ortiz. You can, say that all you want to about I should have knocked his ass out, blah, blah, blah. And listen, I don't mind that mindset to be, that I have to dominate this fighter from round 1 to round 12. Whenever you're in a boxing fight, your goal should be to dominate that fighter as much as possible, because you never know what these judges are going to do. And let me tell you what, Jamaine Ortiz, if you believe overall that this fight, that is going to be a 7 rounds to 5 fight, and that they're more than likely going to give it to you, or that it's a fight that could go either way, understandably they give it to George Kambosos, but George Kambosos also knocked down Teofimo Lopez, and clearly they had to give him some of those rounds. Like, it wasn't even competitive in some of those rounds. If this fight is super competitive and can go either way, they're not going to give it to you, because they have plans for Teofimo Lopez, and he's worth a lot of money, and they're really trying to set up that fight between Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney, and they don't want you ruining those plans. So if you're going to win this fight, you're going to have to win it a clear 9 rounds to 3, 8 rounds to 4 at the very least.
Confidence has never been an issue for Teofimo Lopez. And the 2-division champion brings that attitude to every aspect of the fight.
I don't see this fight going the distance. I don't. I faced Jamaine Ortiz before, and I'm not overlooking him. However, I just know there's certain things that certain fighters have, and there's just things that certain fighters you need to have as a champion, and he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that.
I would somewhat agree with that. I'm not going to say that Jamaine Ortiz cannot be a champion. I think that he's better, for example, than that of a Isaac Pitbull Cruz or a Rolly Romero. But I don't think that he's Teofimo Lopez. Just in my personal view, I think that he's a grade or two, probably a couple of grades below someone like a Teofimo Lopez. He's a guy that can give a fighter like that a tough time. But he's a guy that probably is not ever going to beat the creme de la creme. He's missing 1 or 2 qualities, at least just in my personal view, to beat the creme de la creme fighters. And there's just a lot of fighters that are like that,
Champion heart. And I'm going to press him on it come that night. It's a good turnaround for me, man. I think it's now that I get to really revision everything.
And Teofimo Lopez said that he's going to press him. I'm not sure if he just means overall that he's going to beat him or that he's going to do whatever he has to do to win. And of course, that's what you always should do in a fight. But in my view, the best tactic for Teofimo Lopez would be to pressure that of Jamaine Ortiz. Because if this stays in the middle of the ring, I don't think that Teofimo is quite as quick as that of a Jamaine Ortiz. And Jamaine Ortiz is an intelligent fighter. He's an intelligent fighter. He's not a dumb fighter. It's just that there's certain things overall that I think that he's missing, including some of the power and the athleticism to really become a creme de la creme champion. Actually a great fight I would love to see is Jamaine Ortiz versus Ryan Garcia. That'd be a great fight.
And how I really want to take this next chapter of my life.
But if Teofimo Lopez ended up stopping that of Jamaine Ortiz within that of 7 or 8 rounds, I wouldn't be surprised.
At just 25 years old, Teofimo Lopez seemed to have it all.
The takeover!
And decided to walk away.
Whenever you're ready. I don't want to fight no more. We're not in a rush.
Yes, I'm going to be announcing my retirement to the sport of boxing.
But in that time, he found a renewed spark, rooted in life outside the ring.
In my gut, I did really want to retire from boxing. The 6 months that I needed was to find something I was losing, and that was myself. My son has a part of me. In those 6 months, I found me through him. the Teofimo V. He carries my name next, and that's more important than anything that I've done in my career. And that's why mentally, I'm so much stronger than I was in any other life that I've had here. And for that, I'm very grateful for it. He loves it, man. Picked him up from daycare today. He was like, boxing? He was like, boxing? I was like, yep, we're going today. My son, man, a ball of energy.
You know what? Teofimo Lopez and his wife may have had issues because you know what? They need to get a DNA test on that baby, man. That baby overall does not look like Teofimo Lopez whatsoever, in my view. that looks like, fucking Liam Smith's baby or something like that. What the hell is that?
Full of life. No matter what, he's always been a happy kid since he was born. And that's what I missed. I missed that too. I focused so much on the political game that I forgot the sport and how I was as a person. And seeing that kid just going in there, I'm like, yo, this is amazing.
Nice, Papi. Do it, Papi. Do it again. There you go. There you go.
I have a duty to really attend here. It's the only reason why I'm back. So if he is meant for boxing, well, his daddy's going to make sure that he has a road safe enough to take. And then he could follow it, or he could do better than his dad. That's the goal.
Go. Yeah. Yeah, Papa.
He's so motivated right now. I never seen him so happy in my life. The bottom line, the show goes on, and we're lucky to have him again February 8th.
I love you. All right, let's get it. I came back to educate these fighters because a lot of them want what I have, but only if they knew I'm trying to help them have it. And I just want to help these next kids.
Tio, he gives me a lot of game on just what it takes to get to where he's at.
When you get stuck on the ropes, two things you want to do if you feel trapped. See that? You close that gap. But you got to use your shoulder like a football player. Huh? And if you don't feel like you got that, use your forearm. Woo! Use your forearm. Why? You stop me from here, they shoot right under.
Right.
Boom, boom. Man, get out. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for boxing. So the lead.
I definitely don't think that the advice that Teofimo just gave right there is bad advice, but sometimes it's also just best to get the hell off the ropes. Because Teofimo Lopez, even though he can be a good defensive fighter, sometimes overall he tries this Mayweather stuff a little bit too much, and sometimes overall when he gets the right fighter, they can counter him. Kind of like that of George Kambosos. But to be fair, that was more in the middle of the ring and not up against the ropes. But I don't completely disagree with what Teofimo Lopez said there.
The least amount of thing I could do is give it back to boxing. You can't chop a big tree, with one axe like that. You got to keep axing them. This is my year to really set the tone for boxing again and rebuild it to where it needs to be. Boxing needs true definition of a warrior, of a fighter. And I know all the boxing guys up there respect that I'm doing this with blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jamaine Ortiz, I'm not going to overlook him at all.
And what that's Teofimo Lopez's way of basically saying, because a lot of people are probably comparing this to the George Kambosos fight, which is him basically admitting that he kind of looked overlooked at George Kambosos, and I agree.
Is what that other side is doing, I gotta stay focused on what I'm doing. It's me versus me. Every time I go out there and I fight, every time I go out there and train, I'm focusing on how do I beat myself. Jamaine Ortiz is a decorated fighter, knows how to fight, but this is a different time, and this kid is gonna feel the magnitude of this. He's probably already getting nightmares and cold sweats because you're doing this for the money and the clout and the fame, and I know it. You could tell people that you want the championship belt, but boy, I ain't stupid. I ain't overlooking nobody.
Well, he's probably doing it for everything, Mr. Teofimo Lopez. At the end of the day, sure, fighting you, a part of the appeal overall is that you're going to be the fame, and or that they're going to get a part of that fame, or that they're going to get a part, of that, overall, basically, of the amount of fans that you have, or at least overall that aura. But at the end of the day, you also do have a belt. So, I mean, this is a fight that a lot of people, of course, would want.
I think everybody overlooking me, though. They overlooking the greatest.
Hey, Tim.
What's my name? Say my name. Say my name. I do this for the glory. I don't do this for the money. And I feel so confident. It's time that I wear my crown. I'm like a gladiator. I'm Maximus. Are you not entertained? That's good. Good work, guys. Great work.
Ain't got no body.
This is my first time fighting for a world title shot. So it's definitely the biggest fight of my career. I visualized coming back here to Massachusetts as world champion. And then, who knows, maybe some guys will have the balls to fight me, call me out, get some bigger fights. And that's all I'm here for, is bigger.
I do believe that a lot of fighters probably aren't super interested in fighting Jamaine Ortiz, because why would you really want to fight Jamaine Ortiz? Jamaine Ortiz is a guy that, kind of like Sandor Martin or some of the other fighters, where he's not necessarily someone that you would claim to be super A grade, but he's still very dangerous. He's a guy that could potentially beat you, especially if you're a smaller built 135 pounder, or 140 pounder. So, at the end of the day, it's like, why exactly would you want to rush to fight Jamaine Ortiz? He's a smart fighter. He's not the worst athlete in the world. And on top of that, he's not super well known. So if you end up losing to Jamaine Ortiz, it's not going to be a great look. So I do believe that. That's why I give Teofimo Lopez actually a lot of credit for fighting some of these guys like Sandor Martin and Jamaine Ortiz.
Better fights. This is what I worked so hard for. Put in 2 months of training camp for. Everything that I've put into this point, and once I achieve what I will achieve February 8th, will be something I'll be extremely proud of. My team will be proud of. My city, my family, my state, everybody. And that's fueling me. I'm all about creating a legacy and being the best I can be. Yes! I always felt I was capable of what I'm able to do. It's just time to show it, Yes! I think the world's gonna see something that the world hasn't seen yet.
Good work.
Well, we'll see about that, Mr. Jamaine Ortiz. I hope overall that you're right. I at least hope that you make the fight very competitive. And to be honest with you, I think that the fight's going to be relatively competitive. If Teofimo Lopez ends up dominating Jamaine Ortiz and knocking him out within 7-8 rounds, I'm not going to say that I'd be, surprised or shocked. But, maybe slightly surprised. I expect it to be a relatively competitive fight, at least within the first 4 to 6 rounds. But, after that, I do believe that Teofimo more than likely, is probably going to do a little bit better. But you know what? We'll see, because Teo sometimes doesn't always do the best in the second half of fights. That kind of happened overall against Vasily Lomachenko. And it happened, I believe, against a couple of other fighters. A little bit, maybe against Sandor Martin. Well, maybe that was in the first half. I can't remember. But anyways, Teo's going to have to be careful and very sharp as well.
The question in the back of every boxer's mind is what's next.
Let's go and get it for ourselves.
Winning boxing's biggest prize might seem like enough. But once you've achieved that greatness, where does one go from there? Being a 2-division champion, Teofimo Lopez's motivation is about more than another belt.
Forget about the so-called belts. He beat the best fighter in the division both times. Call it like it is. Call it spade a spade. Get a man his credit.
I will say this: Teofimo Lopez definitely deserves a little bit more credit than what some people are willing to give to him. And of course that's a lot of the LDBC and the media as well. But you know what? Teofimo Lopez is a great fighter, no doubt about it. He's clearly an A grade, if not an A+ level fighter. But ever since I lost to George Kambosos, there is some questions. Not overall just about some of his skills, but on top of that, where is he at mentally? And I'm not still completely sure exactly where Teofimo Lopez is mentally. He's kind of all over the place, so we'll see.
Where's the mic? Just drop it.
This crown belongs to no one else.
But next, he'll have to face Jamaine Ortiz, who is in search of his first world title, in a rematch nearly 10 years in the making.
He never made me question myself in 2015. He will be having those doubts about himself when I knock his ass out.
We're taking the stage.
Interesting. Jamaine Ortiz keeps talking about knocking Teofimo Lopez out. I wonder if he's really going to try a little bit harder to knock out Teofimo Lopez. It sounds like he's going to try to be a little bit more aggressive in this fight. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad idea, but I also don't think that the reason why Jamaine Ortiz lost the Lomachenko fight was because of complete lack of aggression. I think that once he felt the power of Lomachenko and once he felt the power, and on top of that, overall, once Lomachenko started coming onto him a little bit more with the pressure, I think overall that he had a little bit of a lack of answers. But, once again, that could be attributed overall to a lack of aggression. But, I think that Jamaine Ortiz just needs to remain smart. I think that he needs to move a little bit more laterally, get in and outside of the zone. And also, to be fair to his point, he's going to have to be aggressive with Teofimo Lopez, and to beat someone like a Teofimo Lopez, or to beat a fighter in the first place, especially when they have great power, you're going to have to show them that you're not afraid, at least to the point to where, you're just not going to throw. Because once you start to get in that motion of not throwing, then they already know that they're too much for you, and that there's pretty much nothing you can do. That's how certain fighters like Gennady Golovkin, Wilder, other fighters, even Canelo, and that's not me stating that those fighters, are all one-dimensional fighters or anything like that, but in order to really show a fighter that especially has great power, overall, that you're really going to be able to beat them, you have to really be able to go somewhat, I don't know if I want to say blow for blow with them, but you have to show them that, listen, you're going to try to punish me, you're going to get it right back. I'm not taking that. You're going to get it right back, and not only can, you hurt me, but I can hurt you just as bad as what you can hurt me, or at least overall to the point to where it's going to affect you. So back off.
2015 National Golden Gloves. We get a championship ring. Put it on my ring finger. I married boxing at 17, and now he's coming back with the same fighter that I'm facing. We're gonna have a good dance, and we're gonna show the world why Teofimo belongs in the sport of boxing.
This is the Teofimo show.
I don't think nothing of it. The takeover is going to come to an end very soon.
On February 8th, boxing will take over Las Vegas as Teofimo Lopez returns to the ring to defend his junior welterweight title.
This is no longer the takeover. This is worldwide takeover.
So basically still a takeover. Anyway. But this fight happens Thursday, February 8th. I'm actually a little bit excited for this fight because Teofimo Lopez, he's one of my top 10 pound-for-pound fighters, at least on my personal list. And Jamaine Ortiz, of course, he's never been a champion. He's a guy that, in my view, I'm not quite sure if I would classify him as an A- level fighter, but he's a guy that certainly is dangerous for a contender. So I think that this is a very exciting fight, and we're going to see how sharp Teofimo Lopez actually looks. We'll see. Very, very interesting fight. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later, and we'll see where this fight goes. But as for my fight prediction, who am I predicting to win? I have Teofimo Lopez by that unanimous decision. I think that Teofimo more than likely is just going to be a little bit too powerful, a little bit too good of an athlete. And I think that he's going to be the smarter boxer, more than likely, just by a little bit. But Jamaine Ortiz, he's got his intelligence. There's certainly no doubt about it. He can fight a little bit on the inside. He gets certain shots on the inside that Teo's going to have to worry about. That's why I say this is also going to be a great test to see if Teofimo Lopez knows the rule of being first in a fight and really overall knowing when to break them down. Because that's what he's going to have to do. He can't get in a complete boxing match with Jamaine Ortiz the whole entire time, at least not in my view. He's going to have to really try to break him down and really try to hurt Jamaine Ortiz and really try to brawl with him. Or not brawl, but at least break him down intelligently. So we'll see what happens. But I have Teofimo Lopez winning. If he does overall show a very good and coherent game plan in the first 3 rounds, he very well could stop him within 7-8 rounds. But I think Teofimo, I think that it'll be at least somewhat competitive. We'll see what happens. I would probably predict Teofimo maybe to get a knockdown once or twice, You know, maybe once. I think that there's a possibility there could be one knockdown, but, you know, I think that at the moment I'm just going to say unanimous decision for Teofimo Lopez, and I'll predict him to get one knockdown in the fight. We'll see what happens, though. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.